All the living things in the world can be traced back to the original living cell over 3 billion years ago. Now, all of a sudden, we're on the verge of creating organisms that don't have parents. There's a quantum leap between life as it is now and life as it can be designed.
Welcome back to Creating Synthetic Life, your questions answered. I'm Paula Zahn. We are back with pioneering scientist Dr. J. Craig Venter, and joining us again, renowned futurist Ray Kurzweil, science author and writer Michael Spector, and Lee Silver, professor of molecular biology at Princeton University. What kinds of future industries might synthetic biology spawn? Do we even know?
Well, let me take one project, and then you can multiply that by 1,000. I'm working with some MIT scientists on the cancer stem cell. We believe we've identified it and have cultured it, and we've identified a particular enzyme it needs to reproduce that normal eukaryotic cells don't need. What does
that mean with this technology?
Well, the technology that Dr. Venter has pioneered could be used to actually produce something that selectively destroyed that enzyme and would render ineffective a cancer stem cell and stop cancers.
This is very exciting. What other medical advances?
Drugs. I mean, drugs. You can make drugs that you now have to grow. You can make them in a lab, and you can grow them in a vat, and you can make them in a way so that they'll be stable and they won't be contaminated and they won't be dependent upon weather.
To answer your question, there isn't an industry that won't be affected by synthetic life.
So what will be the economic impact of this on our country if we keep the science moving?
If the science goes forward, the impact will be immense. For one thing, we would be making things in this country again, which we don't really do anymore.
There was a study out of the Royal Academy of Engineering last year that said this is likely to be the #1 wealth generator for countries for this coming century. That's a very powerful statement made by that review group. But I think the thing that gives me the most optimism is the groups I speak to around the world. Young kids, young students are most excited about this development than almost anything else in science.
Let's talk about that for a moment, Craig. This whole new crop of people, are we talking about kids that are going to be experimenting in their garages and being able to duplicate some of the work that has taken you so many years to be able to do?
Well, the BioBricks group has actually encouraged people to do biohacking, but, you know, in a responsible way. They've gotten bacteria to act as cameras, as lights, of all kinds of exciting things. So I think we're at the earliest stages of imagination of engineering.
Any kid can go onto the internet and see all of the data that's been generated by geneticists around the world, and you can actually do your own analysis on a computer. So when you talk about teenagers in high school who have access, and they all have access to this information, they're going to be discovering things.
Things we can't even imagine today.
I mean, it's unpredictable.
I want to know what our lifestyles will be like. And we do have a question from one of our Facebook users about the food supply. And his question is, how will this new technology affect our food chain?
Well,
what are we going to be eating?
I'll give you one example of a new food technology that synthetic biology can contribute to, is we can actually manufacture foods like meats without animals, so no animal suffering. We can recycle the resources in computer-controlled facilities, so no ecological disaster. Ultimately, these can be done very inexpensively with better health characteristics. Meat can have omega-3 fats rather than saturated fat. It could taste better. It could taste like, you know, the finest beef, but be healthier, inexpensive.
So at Synthetic Genomics, we're trying to use algae to make food substances. Instead of oil palm from growing plantations, you can get 20 times the productivity, theoretically, out of algae growing in a much smaller space. These are just the earliest steps. Yeah. Instead of getting fish oil from killing fish, we can just remake it in algae.
Craig, you have spent so much of your adult life on science that has led to this stunning achievement. Have you thought all along that you were creating something that might ultimately make this world a better place? I mean, is that what guided you? Is that what led you?
Yeah. I mean, it's been my personal goal, and I think it's the goal of science to do that. If we understand the world around us, it gives much more ability to us to try and do something about it. You know, The unfortunate thing is we need new science today to solve the problems of science before. You know, we have 100 years of using oil that we never thought that would be a problem when it started out. Now we have to find a solution for it, because I don't think anybody anticipated 100 years ago we'd be using billions and billions of gallons a year and have the problems like we see in the Gulf and what we're doing to the atmosphere. So we need new science. We need new ways to alter our future, or we're not going to have one. The excitement, the enthusiasm, the dedication for this time to do this, because of people believing this is a new start, this is an exciting stage, that really gives us hope for the future, because it's a technology that biologists can bring something to the solution of our own survival.
Well, it has been a privilege to be able to spend time with all of you, and I hope this does start a national dialogue on this critical issue facing our country.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Our thanks to Michael Spector, Ray Kurzweil, Lee Silver, and Dr. J. Craig Venter, the man behind the first synthetic life, and to our other guests who've shared this hour with us.